Hi, I'm Nan Simonsen. I'm a nationally board certified health and wellness coach, and I want to welcome you to yet another one of my, I'm going to say, weekly updates. Um, as I go through Dr. Brook Goldner's 6-week rapid recovery group uh, and report to you from my place, my experience, and my benefits. That can be anybody's. I want to introduce to you Dr. Brook Goldner. She wrote Goodbye Lupus after being diagnosed. Well, she wrote it after being diagnosed with lupus, but at 16, she was diagnosed with lupus nephritis, which means that her kidneys were involved and her kidneys were failing, and she was told in 6 months without special treatment, she might not live or she would be on dialysis. And anyway, this went on for, I believe, 16 years and on lupus or with lupus. And then she was about to get married. And the fellow that she was in love with, Thomas Tadlock, had he was well known for working with people for weight loss nutritionally. And she said, well, if we're going to get married in Hawaii and I'm going to wear this little dress, I want to look my best. So I want to lose some weight. For 3 months, he had her on a protocol that he used to help people lose weight with high nutrition, high omega-3s, lots and lots of water. After she was married and she saw a new rheumatologist, because they had moved, she was told by that rheumatologist, well, you don't have lupus. Well, of course she did. It took her down for almost 2 decades. And upon retesting, they figured there was something wrong with the test. They found that no, her lupus was gone, her antibodies were gone, all of the measures for lupus were gone. Well, they thought, well, maybe it was just a fluke. They didn't even investigate for a while and then realized that although she went through years and it didn't come back, to babies and it didn't come back, maybe there was something there. And the only change they saw was, other than falling in love, was that she had changed her diet. So they experimented. They experimented with over 100 people and found that, and these people had different autoimmune diseases, and they found that this protocol worked to reverse diseases. And I heard that, and all kinds of maladies, not just autoimmune diseases, but if one can be healed of an autoimmune disease, which means our body is turning on itself and it is rife with antibodies, in other words, again, damaging itself, you can bet it can be helpful for all kinds of things, cardiovascular health and even preventing some cancers. Well, after working with a number of people and seeing amazing results, she wrote this book, Goodbye Autoimmune, and clicked off the things: connective tissue disease, Hashimoto's, Sjogren's, chronic fatigue, countless more, chronic pain, lupus, multiple sclerosis, scleroderma, and rheumatoid arthritis. And the difference between the two is that Goodbye Lupus is the protocol. Goodbye Autoimmune Disease is the protocol, and the actual work she did with the patients, because what she found is it's not just what you eat, it's your lifestyle, it's the way you think, it's the way you process information, it's how well you sleep and move. In other words, it's lifestyle, and a lot of it comes through the emotions. And they have been, she and Thomas, because they work together with these groups, and they've seen thousands of people in their groups, and they have seen remarkable recoveries. And she had been asked for so long for a cookbook to give people a way of preparing with this very strict dietary protocol, some really good food. And Goodbye Lupus, Hello Delicious came out. So you will see on my YouTube channel, YouTube Nan Simonsen, I do a number of demonstrations. You can buy the book and get the recipes, but I do demonstrations showing the recipes. As a matter of fact, I just did one and I'll be posting it sometime this week. Today is the 25th of February, 2024. I'll be posting one for this, for avocado and cucumber soup. It's really yummy. And it's just the demonstration, but it's fun to see how it looks, and from my smile, how it must taste after tasting it. Well, I like to update you with what it is that that particular week focuses on. And this is the second to the last week. It is week 5 of a 6-week program. And the program is called Goodbye Autoimmune Rapid Recovery Group, because in 6 weeks, they can see people reversing disease. And yet it may take, because I've done this, I did it on my own September 2nd through the middle of October of 2024, and I got great results. Anyway, I've said it again and again, so I'm not going to go through all of it, but pain, inflammatory markers, what I wanted, I got. But after I stopped, one of the markers was going back up, the others were still going down, and I wanted to experience what 6 weeks of this would feel like, sound like, look like, and to work with Dr. Goldner and Thomas, her husband, was something I wanted to invest in. And I can see I wasn't doing it right. I was doing my version of right. When you do the program, you are every day keeping a log based on the things that really are the right way to do the program. And it becomes very clear how so many of us can rationalize not doing everything. And then when we say, oh, but it didn't work for me, I did it, there's that inkling in the mind, yeah, but I didn't do it right. And that's what I say about the first one. I did it 6 weeks, but I didn't do it the way I am now. And up to the last week. Next week will be the last week. So what did she focus on this week? Her attention, because again, she's done this for almost 20 years now, teaching the classes for maybe 15 or something. She asked 2 important questions this week, number 33 of the 42-week program. She asked, number 1, what are your thoughts, behaviors, and habits? She said, let's get to, now we've done this long enough. You've got the food. You understand what it is. We've talked about emotions. We've talked about, well, in these 4 weeks, we've covered a lot of ground. And so again, back to that question, what are your thoughts, behaviors, and habits that are getting in your way? We could turn around and say it a little more ruthlessly. What are your excuses, reasons, and emotions for not being on plan the way you wanted and could and should be? What has stopped you from doing the things to move forward? The second question is, what am I going to do about it? What is the plan? And this is something she talks about all the time. We have a log sheet. The log sheet starts with a evaluation of our mood, as well as our energy level, as well as a number of other parameters for that day. And if those aren't at the highest levels of positive, down at the bottom, we explain why. And then below that, what's your plan for doing something about it? Isn't that good? Because it's one thing to say, I'm going to try harder, and she won't allow that. What does that look like? What does it actually look like to try harder? In other words, you want to, let's say, move every day, but every day you don't do it. I'm going to put my tennis shoes at the door. I'm going to set the alarm without a snooze button. Do you see what I mean? Okay, so those were our 2 questions. I have put down 10 items that we have covered during this period of time that address those two questions in a outline of recommendations. And if there's anything you hear here that you can acknowledge, thinking of your own individual goals, whether you have a chronic illness or whether or not you're just living your life rather well, but there's still a niggling of something there that doesn't feel right that you've been trying to work on, but it hasn't happened, maybe this will help. So here are 10 key takeaways from rapid recovery thus far. Number one, identify your roadblocks. Reflect honestly on the thoughts and behaviors and habits that have held you back. Are they emotional patterns, self-sabotage, lack of preparation, or external influences? And you can look at each of these and add dialogue to that. External influences, maybe the people in my home won't do it with me. Maybe I'm self-sabotaging. I fear being well because then the family will expect of me what I can say I can't do right now. In other words, those are a couple of very kind of minor examples. So identify your roadblocks, honestly reflect on thoughts, behaviors, and habits that are holding you back. Number two, reframe your mindset. Instead of seeing this as a temporary fix, and see, it would be easy to think the only reason I'm doing this as diligently and as on target as I'm doing it right now is because it's 6 weeks. They look at it every day. They evaluate every morning what we did and how we did it, and want to hear what our plans are if we are not hitting target. Instead of seeing it that way, there's another way of seeing it. Instead of a temporary fix, commit it to a lifelong transformation. When I was considering this program, I was working with there's a couple in the medical group I'm with, Blue Zones Health, that always met for a support group, and it's now called Connect Group. And the gentleman, almost in his 80s, he was in his late 70s, took her rapid recovery. Now, he was an accomplished university professor, very smart, very proper and beautiful Englishman. And he said, that program changed my life. He said, it helped my health. He was a type 1 diabetic. That's a toughie, because if those beta cells are gone, in other words, if the pancreas does not have the cells, we're not regrowing organs with this protocol. He saw improvement, a reduction in the insulin that was needed because his body at a cellular level was getting as strong as it could. The immune system was getting more powerful. But that wasn't even what he was talking about. He said, I used to have a hard time looking at the world in a positive way. This program changed it, because there isn't a day that she, as a medical doctor, but also a board certified psychiatrist, doesn't do a deep dive into and you're going to hear these kinds of concepts again and again, our psyche, what we're doing, why we're doing it, how we feel, how far back it goes. I just had a revelation that was a hard thing to deal with, but the revelation went all the way back to when I was 18. And with her direction, I was able to work it out and release something that I've held for all of those years. I'm 74 now. That's a really long time. So shift from deprivation thinking, I can't have that in order to heal, to an abundance mindset. I get to nourish my body. I get to take care of myself doing what I have to do. That's reframing. And that's the way to be able to accept just about anything we need to do if we want it badly enough. Speaking of which, number 3, build a strong why. Your determination must be rooted in a powerful reason. whether it's reversing disease, regaining energy, setting an example for loved ones. You've got to reconnect daily with our purpose and the reason we're doing it. And if the reason isn't strong enough, quite often the motivation will wane. Number 4, develop a personalized plan. Again, this is something that I've heard again and again and again. She references a lot on a regular basis, actual, real conversations and examples of what it looks like to succeed and what it looks like to um, bypass what someone knows they should do because they believe that something had been in their way. And she addresses that, but she never stops a conversation without directing us to consider, or that person to consider, now what are you going to do about it? And what is that going to look like? A vague goal isn't enough. Create a detailed, actionable strategy that includes, for example, if someone were trying to lose weight, meal planning, shopping routines, preparation methods, self-care practices. That's the other thing that's part of our log. There's a place for self-care. We're graded on self-care. Self-care is partially it's exercise, it's meditation, it's anything that we do to feed our body with the care that some of us, some people find they can only get from food. That's like somebody saying, you're taking this fried chicken away from me. This box of chicken legs have been my best friends. I'm exaggerating that. That saying comes from cigarettes. You can't take my cigarettes. These are my 21 best friends. I heard that a long time ago, and we all can understand why that's a ridiculous statement. And yet it can be translated to anything. We need other best friends, and that's what self-care does. Self-care, give you an example. Yesterday was, some of you heard what happened yesterday. I did something really wonky. And I had a lot on my plate. The entire day I was feeling off. Something had happened in the morning that really disappointed me about some expectation I had of something I'm involved in and where I thought they would be in terms of, I'll say their part in making things happen well. And I didn't feel much of anything was done. So I was annoyed with that. And I just carried that. I carried that in a way that it lowered my mood and lowered my energy. And it just wasn't a good day. And you know what I did? Because now some of you know, I had an eating disorder. I had bulimia from the time I stepped away from anorexia at 15 to bulimia at 16, all the way until I was in my 60s. And I'm not proud of that at all. I used food to take care of emotions, things that I thought weren't even important enough to control me in any way, were important enough to control me in any way. To direct me, allow me to be directed to comfort through food, and then terror of gaining weight, and then purging. That's no way to live, and yet I did it for a long, long time until these things I'm talking about became a part of my life. And that was when I transformed and went from sort of willy-nilly understanding of health to whole food, plant-based, working with a lifestyle as medicine practice. So a lot of these things were infused from the College of Lifestyle Medicine in terms of what a body takes for health: stress management, sleep, movement, community, love, and to be loved and to love back. Food, whole food, plant-based, starch-based. There's no fear in eating starches. Satiety, etc., etc. I learned all of that, and in 3 months, something I couldn't ameliorate for my entire adult life was gone. And I think that's stunning. but that's what she has compressed into direction and expectations in a 6-week period of time at the overview or with the overview of a psychiatrist and doctor, and physiologist, her husband, which makes it really interesting. Okay. So develop a personalized plan. We've talked about that. That includes self-care to support your journey. Number 5, master your environment. Set yourself up for success. I'm part of a Blue Zone project for our town. Our clinic is now a Blue Zone acknowledged medical practice. And by Blue Zone acknowledged, I mean by the people that under the auspices of National Geographic has now learned from the 5 areas in the world where people live the longest and are now introducing these concepts and precepts to towns all over America. And we are up to 70, and my town happens to be one that will be a Blue Zone. Now what happens is we are evaluated, 2-year evaluation period, that is over, and they take all kinds of statistics. Gallup polls help with that. And then they will be measuring us along the way. And then at the end of 5 years, there has to be parameters that have met: a lowering in BMI, a lowering in medical costs, a increase in nutritional meals in schools, all kinds of things across the entire spectrum of a town. And so I'm looking at all of this and so, I'll say, affected and so connected to what we're learning through Dr. Goldner, but also what I'm seeing in several ways. There's a synergy, my clinic, Dr. Goldner, as well as lifestyle as medicine, and the Blue Zones project. Okay, so master your environment to create habits and make the healthy choices automatic. Number 6, commit to consistency, not perfection. Sustainable change comes from daily intentional action, not from being perfect. If you stray, don't dwell on it, learn from it, and move forward. Dr. Goldner talks about this constantly. She says, if you have a bad day, don't judge yourself, but the very next moment, the very next bite of food goes right back onto protocol. Don't give it a day. Don't give it, oh, I've already gone this far, I'll just finish off and start in the morning. She said it's essential to start wherever you are at that moment. Number 7, prioritize mindset and emotional health. And this is what I was talking about as it relates to her evaluation of everything. Recognize how emotions influence food choices. Implement strategies like meditation, journaling, self-compassion to manage stress without turning to food. I had a telling situation. I have a friend who had a birthday. This fellow and his partner are always doing parties, and I thought it's my turn to do a party. And I wanted it to be right up to his birthday or right around his birthday. I didn't want to put it off. And so here I am on this protocol, no cooked food, high raw, and I have a group of people coming to the house for dinner. Well, I made a vegan meal, which included what I could have, guacamole, yup. Hummus, no, it's cooked and that's a legume. A platter of crudité with some grapes to decorate it, so some fruit and vegetables. I could have that. Nobody thought anything of that. Then I had meatballs, and I had penne pasta and a beautiful sauce. Could I have any of that? No. And I made a game of it. I said, tonight you're going to be tasting things. You know we're vegan. There's one couple that is, and the rest weren't. And you get to guess with everything you're eating what I'm feeding you. And just know that you're going to have more fiber tonight than you probably have had in a week. And so you can blame me tomorrow or the next day. And what I learned from that, a couple of things. So I didn't eat, I didn't even taste because I had to make all this. I made the meatballs from Dr. Furman, and I'm going to put that on my channel because I was advised that they were great from a member of at my PowerPoint group who said, these are really, really good. I even heard from a member from this morning's clinic group about Joel Furman's eggplant meatballs, but nobody knew what they were. So we had meatballs. I didn't even taste it. I did a video showing how to make it and didn't even taste it. And then I made from Show Me Mo Vegan, Wendy, from her Instagram page, a chocolate cherry cheesecake. And I made that again, didn't even taste it. So I have all this food. I'm not tasting anything. When it came to my meal, I didn't even tell them at that point what was going on. I had spiralized zucchini and a raw tomato sauce, and nobody noticed it. And then I said to them, okay, everyone, I'm going to have you guess what the meatballs are. I'm going to have you guess what your cherry chocolate cheesecake is going to be. But if you're noticing my meal, I want to tell you that I am back on this protocol. They knew that I was on it in September. These are dear friends of mine. They celebrated when I told them the results I got after that 6 weeks, that I was still chasing down a couple of other things that I was working on. I didn't tell them. I wanted a little bit more clarity into my psyche. I think all of us, not all of us, but I think some of us. And if you read my book, Aging Powerfully, part of it's a memoir. And things were a little gnarly in my early years. And I thought all I had to do was put it down there and it was like, boom, 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 it's all gone. And that wasn't the case. I think there were demons, and I'm washing them away finally with the help of Dr. Goldner in the Rapid Recovery Group. Isn't that interesting? Okay. Um, so my point about that Saturday night was my friends came and they went. They all did what we do at parties, really got into the food. They loved, by the way, my food. And they got to guess, but they didn't, that the meatballs were eggplant, and primarily there are a lot of other ingredients, but primary bulk eggplant and chickpeas. That the chocolate cherry cheesecake was dates, oats, nuts for the crust, and then the cheesecake was silken tofu and frozen cherries, all whirred up with a couple of other ingredients. And it was delicious, and they all loved everything they had. And there's a place near me that brings in this remarkable sourdough bread. And so I bought a loaf of this rosemary garlic sourdough. And so everybody was in heaven. It was a great night. But my point again, it's like, get to it, man. My point is, I watched all of this taken in by the glory of how good it feels to commune with others without being hung up on the food. I would have rather have had their food, but I didn't even think about it. I hadn't tasted it. I didn't miss it because I was just having a good time, having a good time. And that is what Dr. Goldner says again and again and again. Don't make your fun your food. Make your fun fun. Do things that are enjoyable. Connect with people. Do self-care. It doesn't have to be about the food. And I'm learning that so well that that's true. So last night I took a bath. I haven't taken a bath in months since we last traveled because I get really busy in the evenings and want to finish things off. And I was just rattled. And I in the bathtub for almost an hour. And I was so much better afterward. self-care. Food would have had no benefit if I were in my old way of doing things. I'm so rattled. I need to have something to eat to make me feel better. What does that leave you? Within moments, you're feeling worse. Anyway, okay, enough of that. So that was prioritize mindset and emotional health and use the strategies that are so often referred to, the journaling, the meditating, the self-care. Number 8, stay connected and accountable. Engage with a supportive community, whether online, like the Rapid Recovery Group, with a coach, or with like-minded friends and family. Accountability helps sustain motivation. Dr. Goldner told us a story about when she had lupus, and she was really sick, but she loved to exercise. She knew that she needed to keep moving, and she had a friend, and they weren't allowed to call each other. They just had to show up. She had a friend who would meet her at the gym at like 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. And every day they would, not at the gym, at the track. Every day they would meet each other at the track. That was the bond, the pact, and they would run the track. Accountability and commitment. Number 9, track progress beyond the scale. If you're in this for weight, and I'm not in this for weight at all, the weight isn't an issue, but you can translate it to other things that would be applicable. But celebrate non-scale victories, such as reduction in pain, clearer skin, improved digestion, better sleep, more energy. Okay, I'm going to say something really personal. And I measured it this way. And she actually passed that story on to a good friend of mine who knows her very well, who then passed it on to me, not realizing it was my story. Dr. Goldner had said well, what happened is, I wrote it in my log. I had an argument with my husband. Quite often, if we have an argument, he's stronger than me. Imagine a CPA and tax attorney and wills and trust attorney. They think they know everything, and they're always right. And I'm very strong-willed, and I won't take crap because I took way too much crap. So when that all coalesces, there's somebody that's telling somebody else that no matter what, they're wrong. Anyway, and it upsets me when we have an argument, and I can be upset for days. I mean, this dark cloud kind of upset. Anyway, we had an argument. Oh, I don't know, maybe it was a week ago. And right there, mood was like in the tank, and energy in the tank. And I had to, for the first time, fill out the explanation to those things above. And I simply explained that we had an argument, da da da. And then the plan was, and I had a plan because we'd already gone over all of this stuff. And the plan was self-care. Let that just be them. In other words, she told a story about somebody who said, I go to these family dinners. I paraphrase so much because I don't know the exact words. I go to these family dinners, and my Uncle John is so rude. He's always going to say something mean to somebody, and I can just wait. And it upsets me every time because he does it every time. And Dr. Goldner said, well, that's what Uncle John does. Why be upset at what Uncle John does if that's who Uncle John is? Play a game with it. How long is it going to take Uncle John? And when he is rude to somebody, say, I nailed it, or look at him being Uncle John. And I adopted that. I adopted that in a way of looking at what is, in other words, that other story she tells that so many of us know, that the scorpion says to the frog, can I ride on your back across the pond? The frog says, no, you'll sting me. Scorpion says, why would I do that? I just need to ride across the pond. Halfway through, scorpion stings the frog. Frog dies, scorpion drowns. And while they're, dying, frog said, why did you do that? Scorpion says, because I'm a scorpion, that's what we do. In other words, why fight? What is, and just accept it and let it be. That was one of the best lessons that, well, I certainly could use at the time, and I've used it again and again. In other words, just with a knowing smile and a nod. Well, of course, that's what is being said. That's what is. That's what is. Okay. Track progress beyond the scale. Celebrate non-scale victories, reduction in pain, clear skin, improved digestion, better sleep, and more energy. And these are signs of healing and reinforce your commitment. And then finally, embrace this as a lifelong practice. And this is so important. Healing isn't a temporary challenge. It's a continuous journey. Keep learning, refining, and growing with each phase of your health evolution. Mic drop. Wait. Mic drop. This is week 33. Next week will be the middle of, well, Tuesday's not the middle, but almost, of our last week. I'll have something more to share with you then. And I'll have, gosh, I may have my labs by then. This morning I went in and had labs drawn. It's a little early, but we will be sharing on that Friday, all of us, this big group of people, in a Zoom call every Friday, share. And we get live coaching and we get celebrations, and we will all be telling what our improvements are. And I wanted my lab work in time for that, and that will tell me what I was hoping for from the antibodies for thyroid as well as rheumatoid arthritis. And so anyway, I'll be back to you then. I hope you got something out of this. It doesn't matter if you have a challenge that is so debilitating that you're in pain all the time, that your doctor is saying you're in trouble, you've got these things that are going to take you down, or if you're living your life beautifully, but there's still some things that you mean to, I'll use the word clean up. Things that, like, now I know I thought were fine, that now I have just changed my outlook on, or even changed the way I viewed it, or even changed uh, how it affects me and how it affected me for, in one case, 50 years, almost 60 years. So that's all. I hope you have a great day. I know I'm going to. Consider my book. More importantly, subscribe, share, and I hope to see you again. Thank you. Bye-bye.